So you write about trading, specifically short selling. And when I first saw your newsletter appear, I felt like it really came out of nowhere. You started writing on Substack just earlier this year. What made you decide to start writing, and how did you grow that list initially?
So I started writing in about March when I was still in college about this world of short selling and activist short selling. And my first goal with the newsletter I write called The Bear Cave was just to aggregate all the new kind of market data from the week that would be relevant for short sellers or short selling analysts at hedge funds. And the way I got my first few people to sign up, and I think this is common among a lot of Substack writers, is I just tweeted out to my Twitter audience, hey, I'm launching this newsletter for hedge fund analysts. If you're interested, you can just join the list here and link to the Substack. So that's kind of how I built the following to start. And I didn't even do it with the profit motive from the beginning. I just did it as kind of a product I knew I wanted. So I thought it would be helpful to other people and maybe a good way to network and just keep in touch with the short community. But that's how it started, and that's how it grew, kind of with the Twitter at first and then word of mouth afterwards.
Well, and was there a moment when you realized that you had this significant readership, since you grew your list so well?
So the first week I got about 300 people to sign up. So that was pretty encouraging. Um, and then it grew slowly over time. I think it was about 100 a week for the first 20 weeks or so. Um, I don't think it ever really hit me that it was big until I noticed that sometimes if I really criticized a company, the stock would drop in response. And then it kind of hit me that, oh, this thing has a little bit of sway or influence. Um, so that's what excited me about it.
And you grew your free list for, I want to say, maybe like 6 months or so before you ended up launching paid subscriptions. Why did you decide to go paid, and how did you know that you were ready to go paid?
Okay, so I didn't start this as a prof to turn it into a paid when I started. I kind of just started it because it was interesting. But that as it grew more and more, I thought, if 10% convert or 5% convert and I charge $30 a month, this is going to be a really profitable endeavor. So about 4 months in, after I saw it was growing, I decided, I'm going to launch paid eventually. For me, I kept delaying when I was going to launch paid subscriptions because I felt it wasn't the right time. How do I know when it's going to be right? It's better just to grow the free list because I felt that once you launched paid, like the growth would stall. That ended up not being true. And so I just launched paid when I had a really good first idea for what my first paid report was going to be. That was kind of the thing that kept delaying it because I really wanted that first paid report to be good. I'm a little different than most Substack authors. The paid subs for the Bear Cave, they only get 2 deep dive reports on public companies every month. I know most Substack authors give a lot more content. So for me, what the delay in starting was waiting to have a really good first report. And then the kind of benefit is that after I put out a good first report, there was a lot of growth. Um, that's when I decided it was right to go paid, when I had a good first report. And I just did this mental math. I know Substack gives, guidelines of 5 to 10% of people will convert from free to paid. For me, it's been a little lower than that. But, if you just do the mental math and about 5% convert and it's profitable, then it might be worth starting.
And you mentioned having these reports that you offered. From a content perspective, how did you think about what to make free versus what to make paid?
Yeah, so a lot of people criticize me for having too much stuff be free and not enough behind the paywall. But basically what I have right now is that my weekly recaps that I've been doing since the beginning of March are free and always will be. And this is never going to be like really in-depth research on a company, but it's me more aggregating stories or pointing out things that I find interesting. And that's free. And I think that does a good job at growing the email list. And then more like deep dive research on specific companies that might be like part of an investment thesis for a fund. That's what's behind the paywall. And that type of stuff people tend to want more exclusively. They don't want it out in the world where everybody can see it because then it loses its value. So then that's behind the paywall. Um, you, you know, I, I think it's important to keep a lot of stuff not behind the paywall to keep growing. And one thing I've noticed that is that after I launched paid, the growth for the free list has actually been increasing, which is kind of counterintuitive. And I noticed other authors said that too. But when you put out a really good paid report, if it gets some media attention or just gets forwarded around, a lot of people will sign up for the free list just to see what you're doing and who you are, and not for the paid list. So that's one thing that's been a little bit surprising and even counterintuitive for me, is the free list has kind of skyrocketed after I started putting a paid option on, and that's not something I expected.
So like your paid offerings are actually driving growth for your free list, it sounds like.
So yeah. So when I announced paid, I thought, some people would be upset and unsubscribe, and I'm sure some did. But for whatever reason, a lot of people signed up for the free list. So when I announced paid, I kind of made a Twitter thread explaining what I was doing and why I wanted everyone to sign up. And, that got spread around, and a lot of people signed up for the free list. Usually what I do is if I have a big paid report coming up, I'll tease it the day before. I'll say, like, to all the free subscribers, sign up for paid. You really don't want to miss this new report. It's going to be really good. I thought those promo emails would be seen as spammy and people would unsubscribe and people wouldn't want them. But it's had the opposite effect, where like people forward it around, try to guess the company and are interested. And then the free list grows from promoting the paid. So if you send 10 emails to people saying sign up for my paid offering, that'll probably piss them off and they'll unsubscribe. But I found like, one good marketing email every 2 weeks grows the free list, which I didn't expect. So that's been really interesting to me. Once you put a paywall up, the free list grows faster.
In your own words, can you walk us through a little bit of like what your actual paid launch was like? How did you feel about it before and after you launched? What worked really well and what would you have done differently?
Yeah, so I have this Monday newsletter, which is always free. And just in the newsletter, one week I said, hey, I'm launching paid subscriptions for this newsletter. It's $34 a month. I was really clear about what you got. You get 2 deep dive reports on public companies every month. And I think it's really important to be clear about what you get. One thing I didn't do is I made the tone a little too informal. Like, you'd really be helping me out. You're going to help a recent college grad, like, do this full time and make an income. And people, I don't think, responded well to that. And because it was too informal and I didn't speak in other people's interests, the first day after the launch, I think I got the equivalent of like $15,000 a year in subscriptions. So it wasn't like too special. But then I noticed what did really well and what kind of hit it out of the park is, before I put out the paid report, I sent a really good teaser email. I said, you don't want to miss this. I'm going to expose $1 billion company that has all these red flags. And, I think that it's significantly overvalued and the market is missing all these important points on the company, and you're going to get the report tomorrow and you won't get it unless you sign up. That did really well. And that, doubled the number of subscribers. And then the day of the report, it was a good report that people found insightful and forwarded around a lot. And at the bottom of the report for paid, I say, if this is forwarded to you, you can sign up to get more like it. So that did really well. And a final thing I did that kind of made the first week really good with the report is, I emailed a bunch of reporters saying, hey, I'm going to be putting this really interesting thing out at 10:30 or 10:47 on Thursday. So you really want to pay attention, and I'll add you to the paid list for free. So you'll get it. And because of that, some reporters just like put a blurb on the Bloomberg terminal and like, just wrote about it a tad. And I think that is really good at driving subscriptions, at least to the free. And then those free people will convert to paid. So what I did well was have a really good first report, first paid content, and have a really good teaser email. What I did bad is in the first introductory email, I was a little too informal and I didn't speak in their interest. But the thing I think consistently I've heard from other paid authors is you got to be really, really clear about what you offer. It shouldn't be wishy-washy. It shouldn't be, I'll figure it out later. I think people really want to know. And one thing I've noticed is I'll in my normal free newsletter, I'll say like, sign up for paid. It's really good. Here's what people are saying. That's very bad at driving subscriptions, because I found no one wants to insert their credit card info for something that they're going to get in 2 weeks or in 1 week. But if you say paid subscribers get this thing tomorrow, that's like 100 times better, literally like 10 times better at driving subscriptions. If I send just the template thing, sign up for premium, this is what you get, people love it, learn more here, subscribe, that might drive one subscription out of 6,000. But if I send it in a promo email the day before to only people on the free email list, that drives like 10 subscriptions, which is a lot. So that's one thing I've noticed, is that time to like the next paid report is really important.
Cool. You mentioned the emailing reporters, which I thought was kind of a cool strategy. Did you know the reporters they emailed, or you just like cold email them?
Cold emailed. Sometimes if I talk to one, I'll just say, can I add you to the paid list? And they'll say, yeah. So you want to find people who write the little blurbs that could potentially be included. I know some just from the past, so I'd forward it around to them. I found Twitter is really good. So if you're posting something that's time sensitive or really important, like putting it on Twitter is good, because people will retweet it and see it, and if they see a stock moving, they'll be like, oh, okay, this is what's causing that. So I found Twitter is really important. But the reporters was just by talking and knowing people.
Cool. And how have you continued to grow your readership after your paid launch?
So the growth, so I got a lot in the first week. The growth afterwards has been okay, but not great. One thing I do is I send promo emails before any paid report. I try to go on as many podcasts or Zooms or that sort of thing as I can. I think those are okay at growing it. Twitter seems to be really good. The one thing I've learned is a lot of Substack authors will take their content and put it in a Twitter thread. That tends to be really good at getting followers and getting people to check out your website. One thing, this is a little unrelated, but I found to be incredibly helpful, is give shout outs to other people and other Substack authors and just other people with large Twitter followings. So something I did for the newsletter is every 20th, 30th, 40th, and 50th edition, I would say, like, here are the best 20 Twitter accounts to follow in the finance world. Here's the best 30. Here's the best 40. Here's the best 50. And, I would try to be honest and say who I think is the best to follow. But I'd also name people who I knew read the newsletter or would be sharing it or have done a good job of sharing the newsletter in the past. And I think that, they'll be happy because they get a lot of Twitter followers. The readers will be happy because they'll get good info on who to follow, and you'll do really well because people who see themselves on this list of 20 best Twitter accounts will share it and say, oh, I'm honored to be number 6 on this list of best Twitter accounts. Likewise, I talk to a fair amount of the other finance Substack authors, and there's a good community there. When I launched paid, I added every other author who I thought might want it to the paid list for free, or I just asked them, could I add you to paid? And they all liked that. I think as a result, they felt good about that. They'd either add me back, or better yet, if they liked it, they'd share the content on Twitter to their audiences. So odds are, if you're writing on Substack or thinking of writing on Substack, there's going to be other people in your niche. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend reaching out to them before you launch and giving them a free version of whatever you're offering after you launch. Like at minimum, it's just nice and you might learn something from them, but odds are they're going to like it and they'll share it. And it's just an easy way to collaborate down the road. So before I launched, I forgot to say this, is I reached out to all the big Substack authors and kind of asked them for their advice. The big things were, be really clear about what you offer. And I know Substack says this a lot, charge more. So I charge $34 a month or $340 a year. You definitely want to have a little bit of a discount for the annual, because people, I didn't realize this, but people do churn. Substack will send a monthly bill whenever, a month after they sign up for the next month. And I found that drives some churn. I see about 10% of people unsubscribe after 1 month. I don't know if that's high or low, but you do that's why you definitely want to give an annual discount, because when people sign up for annual, you get all the cash up front and they're not going to churn because they just signed up for annual. So that's something that I found beneficial. One more thing that I found interesting is sometimes when you have a free list, there'll be a lot of people who are interested in your paid, but they just don't pull the trigger. Like no one likes putting their credit card info in, or like, they'll just be interested in it for a long time. But I've heard, I haven't done this myself, but I've heard that announcing a price increase after 3 or 4 months does a really good job at driving subscriptions before the price increase. Because if you say, starting January 1st, I'm going to increase prices for anybody new who signs up, but old subscribers will be grandfathered in. Everybody will want to sign up before January 1st, before the price increase. And it does like an outstanding job of driving conversions from free to paid. So, I'm 34 a month. I'm probably raising it to $44 January 1st. And I have a feeling, just based on talking to other people, if you pre-announce it with 2 or 3 weeks notice, you're going to get a lot of people on the free list who've been thinking about it to finally convert. Another thing, just to keep talking, is I give out a lot of free subscriptions. Basically, any student who asks or any analyst who asks about it but says they can't afford it, I'll give them a free subscription for 6 months, knowing that they're going to forward it to other people if they like it, and then those people subscribe. So I'm very much in the camp of giving away free subscriptions, and I think it helps drive paid.
It's a great idea. I'm loving all these strategies. Just to sort of wrap up, what sort of advice do you have for writers that are thinking about going paid but are feeling nervous about going all in?
Well, you can start the Substack for free and just see how it grows. Like I started it not thinking it's going to be a full-time thing. I would say that like if it works, it works really well. So if you have a newsletter that after a month has annual revenue run rate of 50K a year, it's worth a lot more than 50K because it's going to grow slowly over time, which is big. The end product will be worth something, because if you have a newsletter annualizing $100,000 a year, that can be sold for something. You're going to have something at the end of it. There's a lot of benefits outside of how much you earn. It's an outstanding networking tool. So even if this failed, I'll have met so many people. It's a good way to find a job, like because you're writing online, it's a great networking tool. People will read what you write. And even if you don't end up making a lot of money from it, you might get a job offer from somebody who finds your skills interesting. In terms of launching it, at some point, you just have to do it. Like I was really nervous about doing it, but you just have to. And you get a lot less nervous if you have a really good like piece of content to start off the paid launch. So I know most people are different where they're putting out more stuff, but I can't be promotional about something I don't like. So if I one time had a report I didn't think was going to be that great and I just didn't promote it at all. But if I have something, if you have something that's really good, you're going to be, you can give that genuine endorsement that you think it's going to be good for paid subscribers and you think it's going to drive growth. If you really like the content, I think that's when you can go pay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks so much for doing this, Nadia.